I said that there was going to be a lot of controversy in regards to The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom when I first saw the trailer. I was laughing at it at the time. I don't remember what I said. I was like, I think I predicted that like woke audiences would be coming against it uh, because it's not what they wanted, right? This is something that really needs to be acknowledged is that when the Wokies say they want a playable Zelda, they basically meant that they wanted like Zelda to replace Link. And that would be like the permanent change going forward, right? And I do think that is very observable in their reaction to The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, in which we get a playable Zelda, we get lots of new, interesting, unique mechanics with her. The game looks great, the art style looks great, like it looks fantastic, and yet people complained because of the way it was set up that it clearly isn't going to replace Link, the male hero, right? And again, this is kind of what makes the game like pretty blatantly anti-woke, because this isn't hard to do, right? Making good, interesting female characters that people actually enjoy. Like, don't shit on the male hero, right? Link saved Zelda. He fought Ganon, he beat him, right? Like he got trapped, okay, and it's up to Zelda to save the day now, right? It's a perfectly fine role reversal. It's no different than something like River City Girls or like Princess Peach Showtime, right? It is a good handling of the concept, right? To the point where like nobody, absolutely nobody was offended by this at all. And that is like kind of the issue I've been seeing here is that like game journals are really desperately trying to push this narrative that gamers are upset that Zelda is playable in The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom, right? Like they really thought there was going to be some weird anti-woke backlash to this game, but actual Zelda fans saw this and thought it looked awesome, right? There were a handful of exceptions, like the only real misogynist example I saw was like the bit block, right? A who is such a homosexual that he can't even stand the idea of like looking at a woman in a video game, right? Like every time like Nintendo like promotes a game with a female protagonist, he cringes because he's so gay, right? Like other than that guy and like people like Mike Matei and Sean Malmstrom who like think everything after the NES is like some travesty to the brand. Like everybody's really enthusiastic about it. Why? Because the game looks good, right? Like the game looks fantastic. They actually gave Zelda a really unique play style that really distinguishes it from other Zelda games, right? Like it is a really exciting product, and I do think it is absolutely going to be one of my favorite games of the year. So with that in mind, with that being said, right, with everything that's going on now, like what really were the Wokies trying to accomplish with this? Like, did they really think they were going to replace Link? Like, again, like this is the thing I keep seeing when it comes to like Wokies, because they really think that they have control over Nintendo, right? They really think that their people at NOA are going to be able to like influence game design and like completely undermine this brand, and they're going to make it woke, right? They kept bleeding on about Vivian, even though that like there are no lines in the new Thousand Year Door translation that indicate that Vivian is trans, right? There's no indication that like anything changed in regards to the character at all, right? Other than like some line that like seems to be mistranslated. Like in general, like again, like they keep pretending as if like Nintendo is on the verge of like going woke, right? Like, oh, we're gonna get all this crazy stuff. Like they've done all this stuff. They've made all these wild claims, about certain characters being gay or non-binary or whatever. And then we get this, right? We get Zelda playable, which is something they've been pushing for a very long time. If you know your history, they've been doing this since Breath of the Wild came out. That was the big thing. That was the big rumor. Like, oh, that's what they're gonna change in this game. They're gonna make a female Link, right? Like, Anoma hated that idea. Miyamoto hated that idea. I think Fujibayashi hated that idea. Like, it was all just like a stupid cope from game journals who don't really understand the audience, right? Who don't really understand the developers, who don't really understand the brand, right? It was appalling. It was absurd. It was ridiculous, right? To me, I think this game is a really good indication of how Nintendo is going to skirt by like the woke agenda going forward is that like yeah, they are going to put in more female characters in games, right? They are going to do stuff like that. However, they're going to make them unique, fun, and interesting as opposed to like blatant propaganda like everyone else. And I do think in a lot of ways this is going to make the female leads of Nintendo far stronger and better than the competition, right? Princess Peach Showtime already demonstrated that very well, I think. I maintain that Peach is now better than every Disney princess, right? I maintain that she is better than Barbie, right? She is a more likable character who can do more stuff, who has been in more good games over the years, right? Like Peach is now a great video game hero, like an icon because of the success of the Mario movie and Princess Peach Showtime, right? And in a lot of ways, I think Zelda is going to establish that more, right? Again, just because Zelda isn't usually the protagonist doesn't make her like a worthless character. But Echoes of Wisdom is going to demonstrate like that fact in full force, right? She is the main character in this game, and like she's gonna do a great job at it. I'm really excited seeing that happen, and to see like so many people try to ruin this, like try to make it political, try to like push their weird agenda on it. It's like it needs to stop, is my honest opinion of it. Like, we do need to condemn like wokeness, like wherever it shows its face, and I do think like this is the big thing. Like, this is a big thing for me, is pretending that Zelda fans are upset about this game when like really everyone I've seen has been like over the moon about it. It's very exciting to a lot of people. It's doing a lot of things right. Like again, like what about this game looks woke? And like people on social media are crying. I think I saw like a Kotaku in Action post like, oh, I'm sure the localization is gonna make it bad. Like, what can they possibly do? Like, what can they do if it's not like part of the core plot? If it's not part of the design, like they can't do anything. Like fundamentally, right? Like everything they've done up to this point has just been squeezed in, and I really don't think. Again, like the indication I've been seeing is that like Nintendo's starting to crack down on woke culture again. They recently removed those DEI postings on their website, and Princess Peach Showtime didn't have anything woke in it, right? If anything, I think Princess Peach Showtime is a really good example of just like how having a female-led Nintendo game isn't necessarily going to make it woke. And I've been seeing that with Metroid Prime 4 as well, as like people are just like, oh, this person worked on Prime 4. Like, no, she didn't. Like, there's no evidence for that. The game has been canceled once already. Like, again, like that's not gonna stick. Like her ideas are, I think people are really overestimating just how much control these people have over the brands. How many times did like people try to tell us that like Bayonetta was gay, that she was in a lesbian relationship with Jean, only for like Bayonetta 3 to shit all over the idea, right? Like again, it just isn't gonna happen, right? I am very confident at this point that Nintendo is going to outlast the woke agenda. The woke agenda is going to collapse in the next 10 to 15 years. People are getting sick of this. DEI is going to collapse. ESG is going to collapse. Like Larry Fink is going to like be put out in the street. BlackRock is going to be purged. Like they're not going to have the same amount of control they used to have. Game journals are going to like lose more and more influence. Like it's just going to be more and more of the same of what we've been seeing over the last 10 years. Because like people don't understand this. Like the peak of woke culture was not the past decade. It was in the 90s. It was in the mid 2000s, right? It was like before that when people like would unironically try to tell you that like, oh, George Carlin, he's so funny. Ha ha ha. He really understands the problem in our American society. No, fuck you. George Carlin was a piece of shit. He is like the essence of woke culture. Like condensed into a human being. When he died, his corpse made up the foundation of the website that would one day become Reddit, right? Like that is how shit George Carlin was. And the sooner we begin to admit that, the sooner we begin to admit that like like everything in like we grew up with watching was like shit, Disney, Blazing Saddles, Mel Brooks movies, a lot of stuff. Star Wars. Like the sooner we begin to acknowledge, like Star Trek, especially, like the sooner we begin to acknowledge that like these brands are stupid, that they don't push any real innovative ideas forward, that obsessing over them is dumb, and that we need to live our real lives. Like that's when it all comes crashing down, right? Stop worshiping brands, stop worshiping companies, stop worshiping corporations. Like go and live your life.